Here with Elliott McCummings, assistant coach at North Carolina A&T, 6-year continuous member of the ABCA, coached at Louisburg, Radford, Austin Peay, played at Pot State and Jacksonville State. So, Elliott, thanks for jumping on with me.
Yeah, glad to be here. I appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, did I get all that right?
Yeah, you did.
Okay,
You
cool.
did.
Hey, how'd you get to Potomac State?
So funny story. My senior year, my dad was just like, "Hey, I don't think, the Division 1 route is best fit for you. So I think you should look at some JUCOs." So he's like, "Just go on Google and look up top JUCOs in the country." And Potomac State was the closest one we could drive to for a camp, and they had a camp about like 2 weeks later. So I went down there for a camp, did pretty well, and that's how I got down there. So
Where's your
pretty simple
hometown?
story. West Effort, New Jersey. It's about 15 minutes outside of Philadelphia.
Did your dad play baseball also?
He did not. So he played football in college. He went to the University of Delaware.
Okay, cool. Well, who got you interested in baseball?
Honestly, I guess my friends. Just my friends were doing it, and I just wanted to do what they were doing. So just kind of went out there and just had fun with it. Never really thought I would be this far into it when obviously you first start, but just enjoyed it. Just enjoyed having fun, and we kind of just went from there.
What'd you learn from Coach Little?
A lot. Coach Little, probably one of the best people to play for. The legendary coach has been there, I think, 20 plus years, and he's done an outstanding job there. So, when I first got there, it was kind of, or actually really immature. Needed to grow up a little bit, and he just taught me the game of baseball. Just taught me how to be, just a mature adult. How to go about my business, how to work hard. So I appreciate him, Coach Schaefer, for what they've done for, my career because, it took off after my 2 years, spending there and, it helped me at the next level.
What were some things maturity wise you need to clean up?
Just the simple stuff, for me, I was that guy that if I got out, it was like the worst day ever. So I definitely needed to clean that up a little bit, just change my mindset in that aspect. Because as we all know, baseball's it's a hard sport. It's a game of failure. So you got to grow up and just take the good with the bad. So for me, just being a little bit mature in that way, and just grow my mindset in the game. Just learn more about the game and learn how to play. Was the biggest things.
How did Coach Case at Jacksonville State find you?
Oh, so when I was in high school, one of my travel ball teammates, he actually went to Jacksonville State. And then one of the kids that I was friends with growing up, he went to Jacksonville State as well too. They both played baseball there. And I think they had something to do with it. I'm not 100% sure. But I just remember the summer of my sophomore year, they reached out to me and they were looking for outfielders. And being from New Jersey, you hear Alabama, you're like warm weather, I'm in. So they reached out to me. I didn't even go on a visit. I just took the phone call, talked to my two friends that were already there, and I committed. So I was like, I'm in. Let's do it.
That seems like that happens a lot with some of the JC guys. Like they
Yeah.
don't always get the same deal as the high school guys, where it's like they and that's why I appreciated 2 year guys is they just want to go play.
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
there wasn't a lot of fluff in the recruiting process with the junior college guys because if the offer was good and they were interested and you had something they were interested in studying, like usually they were in on it, which I appreciated that about the 2 year guys. But
Yeah.
that's part of the benefit of going to junior college is they're a little bit more mature because they've had a couple years of the college level. They're usually a little bit more mature than the high school
Right.
guys.
Right. Yeah. And just doing the research on the program too, you just saw like it was a really good program. I think they went to a regional the year before, I got there. And just talking to my friends, it kind of seemed like a no-brainer. So I just trusted them and what they said and, really liked the coaching staff there. So, just made the decision easy.
Did Coach Case try to talk you into getting into coaching then?
He did. He did. So after my senior year, I had another year of school left, so I wasn't playing at all. So, I was kind of just sitting there, wasn't really doing much besides going to school. One of my friends, he got a job at a golf course, probably like during like the end of the summer. And he's like, "Hey, they're hiring. So if you need something to do, just head over there and apply." So I did. Well, I got the job. Well, the very next day, Coach Case texted me. Was like, "Hey, meet me in my office at 10 a.m." I was like, "What did I do? Like, did I do something wrong?" Like, I don't know what I did. So, met him in his office that next morning, and he's just like, "Hey, I think you would be a really good coach, and I think you could help us out. Would you be willing to be a student assistant here?" And I just got that job, and I was like, "Coach, like I just got that job. I can't quit that job after one day." So I didn't end up doing it, but right after I graduated, got right into coaching. So he's probably one of the reasons he talked me into. I wouldn't say talked me into it, but gave me some light on why he thought I should be a coach and kind of help me out. So
And then how'd you get to Lewisburg?
honestly, just I applied for it off the ABCA website. I just saw it. One of my coaches growing up, he went to Lewisburg, and I was just like, I mean, why not? Let's just try it, see what happens. And Coach Herring, a couple weeks later, reached out to me and had me up there. A couple days later.
You've been around some different personalities then as a player, with your head coaches, different personalities as a player and also now as an assistant. I mean, what have you learned kind of from the different personalities that you've been around?
Yeah, so just been around some really good head coaches, and just see how they operate on a daily basis. And everybody's different. Some guys are really up tempo, high energy guys, and you definitely can use that. For me, you definitely got to be the same person every single day when you show up to the ballpark. For coaches, there are no bad days. You can't let your guys see that you're having a bad day or anything along those lines. So you've been around some high energy guys, some intense guys. So you kind of can use everything that they use, and go from there.
Was that a benefit that you played at junior college going to Lewisburg? I mean, because you can kind of speak that. I mean, you know what those guys are going through. Did that help you going to Lewisburg?
Yeah, like it helped me relate to the guys a lot better. Because they knew that I went through the process, and they asked me a lot of questions when they were going through it. That year, I think we had about, 7 to 8 guys that, had a chance to really go into the next level. So they would constantly walk into my office like, "Hey, here's my options. Here's what I got. What do you think?" And I was honest with them. I think that's the one thing at the junior college level that you have to be is honest. A lot of these guys have high hopes, and, they want to go to these top places, but at the same time, you got to be straight up and forward with them. Like, "Hey, if these are the schools that are showing you love, I think you definitely need to show love back because, I think you could play there, and, you could have a really good opportunity. Obviously we'd all love to go to, that Power 5 school, but if you're just going to be another guy there and you're going to be sitting the bench, there's no benefit to that." So.
How do you fight that as a junior college player? Because you already went through the recruiting process. You get there, and now you got to kind of do it all over again. But how do you kind of blend, okay, I'm looking for my next school, but I also have to focus on doing well where I'm at too. Like, how do you battle that as a junior college player?
Yeah, I think you just gotta just take it one step at a time. For me, when I was going through the process of it, for me, I just wanted to have a good season. That's all I cared about. Our goal at Potomac State was to win a region championship and get to Grand Junction. So the factor of where I wanted to go to school really didn't come into play. I just really focused on that. Just focused on trying to be a good teammate, and just let everything fall into place. And obviously, if you win, people are going to notice, and they're like, "Well, they must have good players if they're winning." So people came out and watched us play. So that's the biggest thing for me. Just focus on the things that you can control, and just go from there.
Who nudged you to get into the ABCA?
So Blake Herring actually at Lewisburg, he just he was like, "We're going to the convention, and you need to sign up for the ABCA." So he's probably the main guy for sure.
Love it. How gratifying is it being at A&T? I mean, it is one of the most famous HBCU schools that we have. Like, how gratifying is that being there?
It's really cool. You hear a lot of good things about it just being on the outside, and then when you get here, you start to understand the history and the tradition here. There's a lot of it, from the football team, to the track team, to the baseball program. There's a lot of things on campus that have happened here in years past. There's a lot of rich tradition here, so it's definitely humbling to be here. And our school wants to be known as the best HBCU in the country, and I'll definitely say they are. So
By the way, started the civil rights movement. I went to
Yeah.
the Civil Rights Museum this year for the first time. Clemson was in town for the ACC basketball tournament, and I grew up with their head basketball coach, but his parents were in town. His dad is a huge history buff and was taking them around town. He was like, hey, can we go by the Civil Rights Museum? I was like, for sure, because I hadn't been there yet. It was so impactful. The video that you see, and then they kept the Woolworths the same. So, like, I really appreciated the fact that I got the whole history of how it started with the 4 students, with the sit-in, and just how impactful the sit-ins were. And then they basically started that, and then it filtered out from A&T to other parts of the country, which so basically it was the impetus of the civil rights movement started on campus at A&T, which is awesome.
Yeah, it's really cool. And there's a statue on our campus. Right when you drive by through campus, you'll see it. But the museum, me and my parents actually went there I think it was last summer. And so, like you said, definitely an eye-opening experience. For me, if you're coming through A&T, I definitely think that's one of the stops that you need to see, just because it gives you a lot of info, a lot of background to what happened, back then, and just to give you an understanding of what happened. So I
It gives
definitely
you a much
would
better
recommend it.
appreciation of what everyone went through back then to try to change and get a change going, because it was difficult, man, like tough times back in the 50s and 60s, and you do appreciate everything that they went through, and they handled it right too. Like, it's that's the thing that stuck out, is like they handled it exactly how you would have had to have handled it to get change back then. They did it the right way.
Yeah, and to think some of those guys were only 18 years old, 19
Yes,
years old.
amazing.
So to be that young and to stand up for what you believe in is definitely impressive.
So, what are your main responsibilities now as an assistant with A&T? I mean, I saw you in street clothes the other day. You're showing a recruit around, and I
Yeah.
remember those. That there were times where we would have baseball stuff going on, and I would be walking recruits around campus, and so it just was a nice reminder of me of all the things that I went through as an assistant coach.
Yeah, so my main responsibilities are the outfielders, help out with the hitters, and then help out in recruiting. So those are my 3 main ones, and then I'm in charge of equipment. That's easy and simple. Nothing too serious with that. So
Are you doing travel?
I am not. I am not.
Thank
We
you. That was the one thing that I never wanted to do. I got lucky in 22 years. I never had to do travel. And when I got to Western as a head coach, I told the assistants, I was like, I will do everything involved with the program, but I'm not doing travel. I will help, and obviously I got to get the money when we go on the road and do all those things from the money standpoint. But I was like, other than that, you guys deal with the travel. I'll set the schedule up. I'll do the scheduling, but other than that, you guys are going to handle the travel. And I did handle the bus, because
yeah,
at Western I had to handle the bus. The head coaches had to handle the bus stuff. But other than that, I was not dealing with travel. It's my least favorite
yeah,
thing of any staff, of any baseball program. Travel is the worst part.
yeah. Luckily, last year we had a volunteer, Braden Gorham, that did most of the travel and all the meals. And then this year we hired a director of ops, Justin Guy, who's done an outstanding job for us this year, with the meals, with travel, no hiccups. It's been perfect. So they've done, a really good job at it.
It's a thankless job too, especially on the
Yes.
meal side, because you're
Oh,
always gonna. That's why we went to Chipotle most of the time, because
it's easy.
it just seemed like nobody complained. And honestly, shout out to Chipotle, they were great with the online orders. Of all the burrito places, I felt like Chipotle did the best job of making sure that the orders were ready and they were right every time, and they were quick. We had issues with some of the other burrito places.
Yeah, yeah. You can't go wrong with Chipotle. Very easy, very simple. Can't go wrong with just an easy sandwich spot either.
Yeah.
That's pretty simple too. So
And that's a great thing for you guys here in Greensboro, because there's a ton of options for your guys. Like, Greensboro's a great
yes,
city, a lot of options for them, a lot of entertainment, but a lot of places to eat. There's just a lot of options for them, and close to your guys' campus too.
yeah, you can't go wrong. I tell all the recruits who come here, whatever you like to eat, you can find it in Greensboro. Very
I'm never
easy to
leaving
find.
here, by the way. I'm never,
No,
like, my friends from the Midwest are like, you coming back? I'm like, I will never go back to that. And I love Greensboro fits me. My mom came to town. She was like, this place fits you. I love Greensboro.
yeah, it's a growing city. We're right in the middle of the state. I think we're getting the overflow. The Charlotte and Raleigh people. A lot of people commute to Charlotte or Raleigh, so it's a growing city. And you can see that, when you first, drive through it. They're building new buildings, new neighborhoods, new everything.
Yeah.
So,
What'd you learn in the MLB Draft League?
whew. That was a really good experience for me. Just to being around that high level of a player. We had so many guys on our team. It was a really good experience. I think the biggest thing that I learned there was just what minor league baseball was really like. For some of those guys, obviously they're going to get drafted, and they kind of want to see what it's like. And I think the draft league was the perfect thing for that. It's a minor league schedule. You're traveling like a minor league team, so it really opens your eyes. Like, do I really love baseball? And it definitely helped a lot of guys in that aspect. Just the early work aspect, the bus rides and all that stuff. So definitely a big help, I think, for those guys.
Were you around any ex-big leaguers? I know there's a lot of ex-big leaguers that kind of help with the league. Were you around any ex-big leaguers?
Uh, on our staff, we did not have any ex big. Actually, yeah, we did. We did. Jeff Manto. Jeff Manto played in the big leagues. He coached in the big leagues, and he was really good to learn from. He had a lot of good ideas, and he thought about the game differently, than I did. And, I asked him a bunch of questions, and he definitely helped us out. And we had a really good team that year. So he's a big help for sure.
Did Kerrick Jackson get you involved with the
He
league?
did.
Yep.
He did. So Travis Jansen put me in touch with him, that summer, or maybe a couple months before that summer, and he just basically said, like, we're looking for some coaches. If you're interested, just let me know. And I had nothing going that summer, so I was like, this would be a really good opportunity to learn, to be just around the game even more that summer. So I jumped at the opportunity.
Is that how you got to Austin Peay? Because Travis was an assistant for Coach Case at Jacksonville State. Is that how you got to Austin Peay?
Yes. Yep. So summer of, I think it was 2019, I believe. He reached out to me, and said, "Hey, I have an opening. If you're interested, just let me know." And I enjoyed Coach Jansen. My time at Jacksonville State, and getting to know him and getting to play for him. So once he said it, I was like, "Yeah, I'm in for sure." So
Had Joe Rakuya calmed down at all? Because he was a wild man when he was at George Mason as an assistant. He was at Mason when I was at James Madison, and I don't think he had calmed down much when he was a head coach. But
nah, yeah, he was a fiery dude. I mean, I didn't know him, obviously before that. But it seemed like he was a little bit more calm, when I was there. He definitely could get fired up at times, but he was a great dude, good to work for. Learned
he's
a
a
lot
really
from him as
knowledgeable
well.
baseball person. He's one
He
of the
he
smartest
really is.
baseball guys that ever been around. We all worked camps together back then. We'd work the Best of Virginia camp. We'd work Old Dominion and Virginia Wesleyan's Thanksgiving and winter camps, and so all the assistants on the East Coast were around each other. He just had a really good knowledge of the game. Very good teacher of the game. Infield guy too. So he and
Yeah,
I worked a
yeah,
lot of the infield stuff together. So I was around Joe a lot in the camp setting.
yeah. I remember we were doing individual defense, and I was with the outfielders and he was with the infielders, and just seeing some of the creative things that they did on that side of it, it was impressive to me. And our infielders were really good the year I was there, so definitely, a really good infield guy for sure.
With your time in the MLB Draft League, do you think that kind of helped you kind of hone in your teaching skills as an assistant? Because it's a little bit looser in summer ball. I think you can tinker around maybe a little bit more. Do you feel like it helped you in that way?
It did. I know when I first got there, they kind of told us, like, hey, some of these guys, like, we don't want you to work with them a lot, just because we don't want you to mess with their swings too much, before they get drafted. But once the draft was over, it was full go. We could do whatever, we felt it was best fit for some of these guys. And yeah, I would say it definitely helped me for sure. Just, learning to teach a little bit more, and, learn, some of the things that I liked to do with some of the hitters. So
I tried to let the summer ball guys come to me with that stuff. We'd talk about it. I'd be like, hey, my main job is you go back to school healthy. Like, I want you to go back to school healthy and better. And I was like, I'm here for you. I won't tinker with you at all if you don't want me to. I said, but if you want help, I'm here to help. So I kind of just threw it on them, because same thing with the coach at the school that they may be going back to. They may not want some tweaks. And I would talk to the coaches too at their schools and be like, hey, do they need to work on anything? And try to get some information from the coaches of the schools that they were coming from. But the main thing was send them back to school healthy.
yeah, no doubt. And that's definitely the best way to go about it. Asking the coaches, and the players when they're there, they want to be worked with. So they'll obviously come to you, be like, hey, what do you see? And sometimes you don't see anything like, hey man, you just got to keep working hard and keep going about your business. And sometimes there's some small, minute changes that you need to make, and you make those changes, and they end up having a great summer. So it
And
definitely
like
did.
for you too, like you look younger than you actually are, and like same thing for me. So I think they kind of view you maybe as a little bit more in their peer group, where they feel a little bit more comfortable talking to you and coming to you, just because you do look a little bit more in their age range, even though you're older. You still kind of look like you're in their age range, and so I think it was easier for guys to come to me at times with the
Right,
information.
for sure, no doubt.
What'd you take away from the on base U certification?
Man, mobility is everything.
It's a lot of
I
information.
It really is. You don't think of a lot of the stuff that you're taught there. For me, it just opened my eyes. So for me, when I was playing, mobility wasn't talked about. It just kind of, for me, when I first got into the whole on base youth thing, I was like, man, we could really do something with this. Just learning more about the body, how it works, why certain players can't do certain things. You'd be in the cage for, hours. Like, I don't understand why you can't do this. We're trying to make changes. You can't do it. I don't understand. But when you take them through that mobility test and you start to understand, like, okay, his internal rotation, external rotation, or whatever, just isn't where it needs to be. And that's probably why he can't make the move that you want to make. So that's definitely, helped me just in this game so far. So,
Which assessments do you like the most out of those? Which ones do you feel like are the most beneficial on the assessment side?
so for me, I would say the shoulder range of motion, the hips, even the ankle one. I think the ankle one's the biggest one that you see where, so for us, we gave our guys a test this past fall, and none of them passed the ankle mobility test, like zero, like nobody. And you just see, how deficient they are in ankle mobility. That's something, that you don't really think about, at the hitting side of it, how important ankle
It works
mobility,
from
hip
the ground
mobility.
up.
Exactly. Exactly.
What are the
So,
correctives for the ankle?
they give you just certain exercises that you can do just to kind of, I guess, just be more mobile with your ankles. So we gave a couple of our guys just some different exercises that they can do. And it's very simple,
They use
nothing
bands for
overly.
those.
Yeah, you can use bands. You can, just use
So is
just
it flexion, extension, and then obviously internal, external rotation
yes,
of the ankle. So
yeah, yeah,
and they're just providing resistance with bands for that.
yes, yeah,
By the
yeah.
way, and this extension and flexion helps with shin splints too.
Yes, it does. It does. And you don't think about that. So, you go through that whole process. You're like, okay, yeah, okay, that makes sense. I understand it for sure. So,
I mean, how long did you, after you got done playing, did you feel like it took you to find your voice as a coach?
oof. I would probably say as soon as I got into it, at the JUCO level, you're in charge. I was in charge of the outfielders. I helped out with the hitters. So I had to speak up. It was just me and another assistant. Just doing our thing. So right away, you definitely felt like you had to speak up. Or especially what you were trying to do for me with the outfielders, and having a really good plan, and going from there. So for me, it was right away.
And coaching outfielders is an art, and it's not a position that's readily taught too, especially at the high school level. And where do you start, especially with your young outfielders when they get to you on campus?
Yeah, so we start from very basic. So I take the glove out of it. I take the legs out of it. So we go two knees. We do the buddy drills. I'm sure infielders do the same thing. That's where I kind of took it from. I'll set up the machine. I'll take the legs off the machine. I'll turn the machine down, and we'll just focus on, hey, like presentation of glove. This is how your glove should look when the ball's going into the glove. I just see your eyes going down to the glove. When the ball's approaching your glove. Just simple things like that. Because, like you said, when they're in the high school level, they're not really taught, a lot of the basics in the outfield.
We
So I
started
break
with
it down.
cone stuff too, just for angles. That was
Yes, yeah,
something that young outfielders never even really thought of. They're just used to going to catch it, and then they don't realize that their angles are awful. And so we
yes,
did a lot of angle cone work with them just so they could work on their first step, getting out of the gates a little bit more efficiently to get to the ball.
yeah, yeah, no doubt. And I think for us, breaking it down very simple has helped us a lot. You can see some of our outfielders made have made like tremendous strides, and when they first got here till now. And then we make progressions. Obviously stand up the machine, turn it up a little bit. Get some ground balls that way, hit fungos. We do use cones. Just to get them to better understand just different angles and how to go about to getting certain baseballs. So yeah, definitely for sure.
You got any drills to help them get behind the ball better?
So I have this 4 cone drill. So basically it's 3 cones in the line, and then there's a cone right in the middle behind those 3. And I get the machine, or you can use a fungo, whatever you got. I shoot the ball to that cone that's in the middle behind those 3 cones. And I just tell the guys like, hey, like we're gonna run to the spot. So your goal is to sprint to that cone that's behind, get behind the baseball, and work through it. And I think at first when you tell them to take their eye off the ball, they look at you funny, like, are you sure about this? I'm like, trust me, just do it for like 1 second, 2 seconds, find the baseball very fast, and it's gonna help you out a lot. And they've done a really good job at it. We had a little issues early in the season, but once we got those ironed out, we were smooth sailing from there.
Yeah, if we had guys having issues with it, we would have them let the ball drop in front of them to get the feel of it. Like, hey, if we're doing this right, the ball should be landing in front of you, so they got a little bit better feel about how far back they needed to be able to get some momentum in through their throw too.
Right.
Not get caught flat-footed. Are you doing much prep steps with them, or are you giving them freedom on what their prep steps need to be as the ball's going to the plate? Are you guys focusing much on that? Is there one right way to do it, or how are you explaining that to those guys with their prep steps?
So yeah, we do prep steps. That's very big. Every time we do a drill, whether it's ground balls, fly balls, I'm always having a prep step. So if I'm putting the ball in the machine, it's like, hey, when my hand raises up to put the ball in the machine, you do your prep step. For me, there's no right way to do it. For me, you can do right, left, or you could hop into it like infielders do. Just whatever's more comfortable for those guys. I don't really have like a hard line like, hey, this is what you have to do. As long as you're prep stepped and doing that thing, it definitely works.
Does your center fielder cheat location and swing at all? I played center a little bit, and I did this at second base. Berto Mercado and I were talking about this at lunch the other day. I actually cheated at second base. If I read location and swing, I was moving before the ball came. Now, I got burned sometimes.
Yeah.
But if I had to play center field in summer ball, I actually would cheat. If I read ball flight and swing, I was actually moving before the ball was coming off the bat. And technically, maybe you don't teach guys that, but I just felt like I got to more balls. I got burned sometimes, but I felt like I got to way more balls. So I would talk to our infielders about that. Like if you feel like you got the right read in the middle, go ahead and cheat if you want. If you get burned, you get burned.
Yeah, that's something that our center fielder, he does a really good job at. For me, I position all the guys, and sometimes I don't even have to say anything. I just look out there and I'm about to move him. He's already moved. So I'm like, oh, perfect. Don't have to say anything to him. That's something that he's really worked on. We talked about it, especially during BP. That's our time to, get our reps in, our live reps as much as we can. Get those pitchers out of the way, get your work in. And he's really good at it. He's done an outstanding job at it. And, he's, gone like taking tremendous strides compared from last year to this year. So.
When's the first time you started to hear or see pro step? Because obviously there's pro step or traditional with their footwork. When's the first time you actually saw pro step and it started to make a little bit of sense to you?
Oh man, it was probably my first year of coaching. We actually went to the ABC convention, and I forget the speaker off the top of my head, but I heard him
probably
talking
Darren
about
Fenster.
it. Yeah, it probably was. It was either him or maybe like JT McGuire talk about it a little bit. And at first I was like, I'm not so sure about this. But the more like, but the more like you tested it out and you did, like, because I did it myself. I was like, I want to see if it actually works. And just for me, like, I just feel like you're just more athletic. You gain more ground towards the infield. It helps, just, cutting, what you're trying to do, for, you're working ground up. So, you're using your whole body instead of all arm to get the ball, back to the infield. So for me, it's just more athletic, and it helps our guys come through the baseball a little bit better as well, too.
We had him
So
tinker with both, but I think especially for the longer, taller outfielders that you have, I think pro step is much easier for them from a balance standpoint too, to be able to get
yes,
lower and get through the ball. I think it's a lot easier on the taller guys. I think the shorter guys can be a little bit more traditional just because they're lower to the ground anyway. But that's a feel thing for guys too, and I think thing that gets lost in the shuffle too is like either their left or their right foot's going to be their dominant foot. And so sometimes if a guy's a left foot dominant guy and they're right-handed thrower, they might be better in a traditional setup because that's their strong foot is their left foot, where you have a guy that's a right foot dominant guy. They might be better off being a little bit more of a pro step. But those are all those kind of those small things that maybe you don't think about, because my prep steps as an infielder were backwards because I stepped in with my left because it was my dominant foot.
yeah,
And you
yeah.
would never, I would never teach an infielder to step in with his left foot, but I did it naturally just because that was my dominant foot.
Right, right. And I tell our guys, whatever's more comfortable for you, go ahead and do it. Like I'm not a hard line, like, you got to do this way, you got to do it, this way. Just whatever's more comfortable, definitely do it.
Do you try to make any adjustments with the recruits before they come on campus?
Um, Not really. I kind of let them, do their thing throughout the high school season, and then, once summer hits, we really try to, implement some of the things that we really want to do. And especially when they get here, early on, we implement some of the stuff that, we want to see happen, see them do. So we don't really mess with them too much during their high school season. Just kind of let them go through that, and then once they get here and get to the summer, we'll start to make a little bit of changes.
When do you guys get rolling in the fall?
So we take about, I would say, like a week and a half to let the guys get adjusted. Obviously you got to get physicals and all those stuff. So we let our guys go through that. But once that week and a half gets by, we start going.
How do you handle volume for the arms in in season? I always thought outfielders were soft because they'd make a couple throws and in and out, and then they'd be hanging. So just how are you handling volume for them in season?
So in season, for me, I like our guys to throw the bases at least twice a week in season. Just so we're doing it, just so, we can keep covering it, keep going over it. So for me, I want those guys to long toss at least once, maybe twice a week. Because obviously during the season, you're playing and, you're playing a midweek game, you're playing on the weekend. So you don't want to long toss too much, but we do incorporate long toss at least once or twice a week. And I do have them throw the bases once or twice a week, just to kind of go through it, keep the arms fresh, and, just keep it clean.
How are you nursing them through the fall? Because your high school outfielders have never thrown that much. So how are
Yeah.
you nursing them through the fall when they get there?
So we kind of ease them into it. We kind of take it slow. We'll slowly progress into, the goal that we're trying to get to. And, so for the first part of the fall, we'll go to like 150 feet, just keep it nice and simple. And that as they, progress and their arms are getting stronger and they're getting used to it, we'll start to work our way back, and then kind of go from there. And then, obviously we crank it up a little bit more. We'll throw the bases probably 3 times a week. And, that's how kind of we do it. Nothing overly complicated, just take it slow. And then, once they progress, move from there.
Once their arms are acclimated, do you have any stipulations how far out they can go, or is it just to where they're comfortable? They can get out as far as they need to get out.
So they have to go to 150 feet every time they throw. Because that's one of your longer throws in the outfield. You're never going to make a super short throw. So they have to go to 150. If they're at 150 and you're like, all right, I'm good for the day, they can work their way back in. If not, they keep working from there.
What are some of the better routines you've seen your guys use? Maybe pregame, during the game. What are some of the better routines? It might be hitting outfielders or hitters. What are some of the better routines you've seen out of your guys? Or even for yourself personally, like something that you used as a player that you felt like helped with your routines?
So I would say some of our guys, or mostly all our hitters, they have a set routine. So they'll get here for early work. They'll go through a T routine, a T series, very simple. It's like 5 T drills that they go through. We don't emphasize soft toss or anything like that, but if they want a soft toss, they have full reign to do that. And the field set up, for them to hit on the field, normally we have a machine set up. It'll be something different every day. Might do oppo angle one day. We might just do straight up machine. We've even, cut the legs off the machine and just stuck it on the ground and just, worked on balls at the top of the zone. So a really good routine, I would say, for our guys, just their T routine and what they go through on a daily basis. And just the early work aspect of it has kind of helped out for sure.
Your BP rounds change much during the season?
Here and there. We'll try to keep it the same a little bit. We may change it. Just, hey, we're seeing a staff this weekend that's doing something that we might need to work on. We might implement that into BP, but normally it stays the same. It might change here and there at times.
How are you keeping your bench guys fresh in season? How are you getting them reps?
So we try to do, live hitter versus pitcher. We try to do that as much as we can. We try to get those guys as many ABs as possible. The early work aspect of it as well too, getting those guys extra swings. Even after practice, getting those guys extra swings. So there's opportunity for them to get as many reps as they can, whether it's live ABs or early work or, after practice. So they're definitely fresh for sure.
What would you like to see out of the incoming players that maybe they're not getting before they get to you? Where would you like to see coaches before they get to you? What do they need to clean up before they get to y'all?
Oh man, I would say base running. Base running is a big thing. When you're in high school, I wouldn't say base running's that important. You're seeing guys getting pinch run for and everything like that. So if you're getting a catcher, he's never had to run the bases because he just comes right off the field after, he gets his base hit or whatever. So base running for sure. I would say bunting. Bunting is definitely a big thing for us. You got to know how to bunt. So I would probably say those two things are probably the most important things that I see just at that high school level that isn't being taught as much as it should be. But it definitely helps when they get here and we kind of go through our process of it. So
I liked recruiting catchers that played multiple positions because you knew they had to base run.
Yeah.
I mean, that was it. Like I'm trying to think. I don't know too many of our catchers I had in 22 years that didn't also play other positions. So they actually were pretty good base runners when we got them because they weren't getting pinch ran for all the time because they were playing other positions when they weren't catching. So, and that wasn't even by we weren't doing that on purpose. I was doing that more because I knew they maybe wouldn't catch as a freshman. And
Right.
it would allow them to get more at bats because they were athletic enough to go play somewhere else on the field. I think catching's the hardest position for freshmen to come in and play, just because it's so different than the high school level. So I knew that at least gave them an opportunity, even if they weren't going to catch a lot, that they maybe could still get some at bats as a freshman because they were comfortable playing some other positions.
Right. Yeah. No doubt.
And it showed they were athletic too.
Yeah.
Had some aptitude to play some other positions. You're a good example of you've worked your way up. What's some advice for some young coaches that are trying to get into it right now?
Man, I would just say if this is really what you want to do, you got to stick with it. That's the biggest thing that I see. This profession is hard. The pay, it's not what you think it is. And you're never going to get in this game to be paid a lot of money. That's just not what it is. So you got to really be dedicated to the game and, just what you want to do. For me, it was simple. I wanted to help out players as much as I could, just grow the game a little bit more. And, for me, I just love being around the game and didn't really get into this to make a lot of money, but I would say just stick with it. There's definitely some tough times for sure, but you just got to stick through it and, just work your way up. And
there's
hopefully
options. You can go get plasma if you need to.
Yeah.
I honestly, this is the greatest time to be an assistant. You can drive Uber or Lyft, and honestly, you can make ends meet. You might not get much sleep, but if you really love doing it and you're passionate about it, you can find a way. I think with anything in life, if you're passionate about it, I think you'll find a way to do it. And if you're not, then it's not going to be for you. But our college level is not for everybody. It's just not. And I think it's set up that way. It's set up to be difficult because it weeds out the people that don't really want it, and the people that do really want it and are willing to make those sacrifices, those are the ones that get to stay in.
Yeah. I know my second year at Austin Peay, second year, I worked at a liquor store just to make ends meet. So I was at the liquor store in the morning, and then once 12 o'clock hit, I was straight to the field. So
And and you got to
I have
make peanut
plenty of
butter
ways.
jellies. I still make my lunch every day.
Yeah.
I do. I got peanut butter and jelly today. I got
Yeah.
raw mushrooms, a tangerine, banana, and a peanut butter and jelly I made last night. I meal prepped last night, put it in the fridge, and it was ready when I picked it out. Hey, you guys are a nationally recognized university. How are you guys laying out recruiting? I mean, because it's not just North Carolina for you all. I mean, there's going to be a kid on the West Coast that's going to know about A&T. So how are you guys laying out the recruiting calendar and where you're going to go?
So for us, it just depends, but for us, it's a lot of some Northeast stuff, some, Florida, Georgia, obviously North Carolina, South Carolina. We've made our way through the Midwest a little bit, haven't had that much success in the Midwest. We're trying to make our way over there.
Because
But
there's
like you
not as
said, like,
many options for kids as for HBCU kid in the Midwest, are there?
no,
I think
there's not.
there's none, right?
I don't think so.
I don't
I
think
don't think
there's
so.
any. I mean, you got to
I
go,
don't think so.
middle of the U.S. You got to go south to get there.
Yes.
I don't think there's any in the Midwest to Upper Midwest.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't think so. Off the top of my head, I don't think there is.
Because
Um,
Antonio Walker in our office, who's full time now, he played at Mississippi Valley.
okay.
He and I've talked about that. He was from Michigan, but he didn't have any options.
Yeah, yeah. So we just try to find as many guys as possible, and just kind of go from there. So it doesn't really matter whether it's Northeast, down South, Midwest, just wherever is best fit, is definitely what we're looking for.
What are you guys most known for academically at A&T?
Uh, engineering is the big thing on
You have
campus,
many
and
baseball players that are in engineering?
so we have, I want to say like three,
Shout
but
out
it's
to
tough.
you guys because it's hard to do. That's the hardest major, so I would be hammering that with recruits. If you have a guy
Yeah,
that wants engineering, because I use Georgia Tech as an example. If you look at Georgia Tech's roster, they don't have one guy on their team that's in the engineering program. It's all
and
marketing.
it's mainly been pitchers though. It's mainly been pitchers.
Well,
So.
they can work around that block schedule a little bit better.
Yeah, yeah. So I think some of those guys like they have class, 3 to whatever, so they're missing
Yep.
practice some days.
Yep.
But we understand that, that degree program is really, really special over there. And if you see the building over there, you'll understand what I'm talking about. It's just they just finished it last spring. I think it's like a $90 million building, and everything that you need as an engineering student is in that building. So if we bring guys on campus that are interested in engineering, like they're like kids in a candy shop. Like, oh my God, like this is something special I've never seen before.
And you're in
So
the
it's just
triad area, which has got to be easier for those guys to get jobs.
yes, yes, it is. I know our student manager, he just graduated and already has a job lined up. I'm waiting for him. I think he starts in 2 weeks. So very easy for sure.
How are you guys handling workouts, strength and conditioning workouts in the fall and then in the spring for you guys? Are you going early morning? Are you going after practice? Does that adjust as the season starts?
So during the fall, we do early morning. So we do 7 a.m. workouts. We like to do it
That's still
before
not that
practice.
early. 7 a.m. is
No,
doable. It's not
well,
5.
for them it is. For 7 a.m. for the kids, it's early. But yeah, we do 7 a.m. Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Nothing too crazy. And then in the spring, it just kind of depends. I think this past year we did it sometimes in the morning, maybe like early afternoon ish, just depending on the class schedule and what we had practice or game wise. But yeah, that's what we really do. Nothing too crazy.
And you talked about having to do a better job of handling failure as a player. When did that light bulb go on for you? Or was it a coach? Was it you personally? Like, okay, I've got to handle the failure part of the game a little bit better here.
It's probably my sophomore year. My sophomore year JUCO, that's your time where you're hopefully going to get recruited and hopefully find your next spot. And I put a little bit too much pressure on myself for sure. I thought I had to, you know, overdo my freshman year. I thought I had to be a lot better, which I had a really good freshman year, and I thought I had to, do all these incredible things. And the first 3 weeks of the season, 4 weeks of the season, I didn't get a hit, like not one hit. Started the season like 0 for 30. So I was like panic mode, like,
Stop
oh my
looking at
God.
the
Like,
stats at that point. That's it. I work
so
with college players now a little bit, and if they start out bad, I'm like, do not look at your stats anymore. Just start fresh, wipe
yeah,
it clean, start over, and start from there.
yeah, yeah. So, didn't have a good start to the season, but our assistant, Coach Schaefer at Potomac State, I think it was the last game, he kind of was just like, hey, man, like, you're a good player. You know that, right? I was like, yeah, I'm not very good right now, though. And he's just like, well, it's going to work out. You're hitting baseball's hard. They're going to fall. Like, just stick with what you're doing. Like, don't freak out. Just keep going about your business, and it'll all work out. And, a week later, dropped the bunt down and got myself going.
It's the best way to get going.
Yeah.
Best way to get going. It's the short game has some benefits for momentum and getting players going. I think it's just a reminder, like, hey, I can actually get on base again.
Right.
Like,
exactly.
It's just a nice reminder that, like, okay, I can get to first base when I need to. It's not that big a deal.
Yeah.
Do you have a fail forward moment? Do you have something you thought was going to set you back, but looking back now was one of the best things that happened to you to help you move forward?
Ooh. I wouldn't say so. I would probably say like maybe being a volunteer, just the grind of that. Just going through that. It's hard. You're not making a lot of money. It's long hours. You're doing a lot of work that people don't want to do. But once I got through that and, just worked my butt off and, it definitely paid off. So I would probably say that, but I really wouldn't say it was a bad thing. It just definitely helped me in the long run.
Did anybody prepare you for that before you got into it? That laid that out like, hey, here's what it actually looks like?
Yeah. So Coach Case at Jacksonville State, he was very straight up about it. It's just like, coaching, it isn't easy. It's hard. Sometimes you're going to question like, man, is this really what I want to do? But you just got to stick with it. And his advice definitely helped. And I talked to him my first year pretty much, every other month, just, hey, what would you do in this situation? What would you do in this situation? So he was a big help for me and, definitely gave me good advice.
Do you have any evening or morning routines that you like, that you use, that you feel like help you?
So I work out pretty much every morning. I try to about like 6:30, 7 o'clock, try to work out. Me and my fiance go every morning, just something that we've done, since we've started dating.
Where are you doing that at?
O2 Fitness.
So is it set? Is it set, or are you guys just going in and working out on your own?
So we just go in and work out on our own. So normally, she'd be like, "What are we doing for the day?" And I'll be like, "Oh, we're doing legs. Let's just do legs." So we'll just come up with some exercises that we do, and we'll stay in there for about an hour, and then go home.
Stack.com. I never used any of it as a player, but for me personally, I got a lot of workouts off Stack.
Yeah, that or I think it's bodybuilding.com. You would think there's just bodybuilding workouts on there, but there's not. Yeah. There's a bunch of workouts on there for sure.
Yeah, I picked up some like Tabata exercises. Like Tabata's hard. It's a lot of kettlebell stuff. And Tabata, anybody listening in that wants a challenging workout, go do a Pilates class first because that class will crush your core. Good luck getting through the whole 30 or 40 minutes of it. But then Tabata is another. It's Tabata. And a lot of it's kettlebell exercises that are really challenging. A lot of movement stuff, really challenging. And literally, like after 10 minutes, you'll be drenched, and that's good. It's plenty good.
Okay, I'll check it out.
It's a 10-minute sprint of a lot of different stuff, which is fun. What have been your thoughts on the ABCA Diversity Committee? I mean, I saw you at the coaches where you're getting to do the roundtable stuff. Is basically like speed dating this year, which I thought was a great idea. It was great. I thought, it was like speed dating where you're getting, 3 to 4 minutes with somebody and then getting move on. What have been your thoughts of those meetings that we've had?
It's been helpful. Definitely helpful for sure. I definitely think in the long run, it's definitely going to help. It's definitely, just helped me just in my career, just asking, certain questions to some head coaches of, hey, what's it like, being a head coach, or, what was like the transition between assistant to head coach, or just even recruiting questions. So it's been a big help for me. I'm sure it's been a big help for all the people that were involved in it. So it's been really good.
What's been some of the information as far as making the transition from assistant to head coach?
Yeah. So, I mean, the coaches that I talked to just said when you're an assistant, it feels like you're the most liked, coach on the team. Everybody loves you. Everybody comes to you for everything. Then the head coach, obviously you're making the important decisions, and, you're making who's in the lineup, who's not in the lineup. So just differentiating the two, assistant to head coach, probably the things that they said.
You turn into it's a management position when you
Yeah.
get to be a head coach. You're now a CEO. It's a management position, which is great, but it also takes away a lot of the stuff you really liked along the way as an assistant coach. So just anybody that's taken over a program, just understand like your roles change, and a lot of what you really liked as an assistant, a lot of that stuff goes away. So just make sure as my dad always said, be careful what you wish for.
Yeah.
What are some final thoughts or something I should ask you that I didn't?
No, you've asked pretty much everything. No, everything's good. I think you guys are doing a great job with this platform. Growing the game and just getting a bunch of people on this podcast to kind of give their story and give some background on what they're trying to accomplish. So I think you guys are doing a great job for sure.
Yeah. I love it. We have so many great coaches. Like that's the gratifying thing for me with the podcast is that we'll bring guests on that probably a lot of people don't know, and they're phenomenal coaches. They're phenomenal people, and that's been the best part for me with the podcast is bringing people on that people don't know, but I'll have people reach out all the time. It's like great guests. And I'm like, yeah, like we have a lot of great people out there that nobody knows, and that's what we should be about with our platform is introducing people that people don't know. So again, it gets people out there and it shines a great light on the game of baseball as a whole because we have great coaches at every level. So Elliott, thank you very much for jumping on with me. I know you're busy. You probably got to get on the road. So hopefully you got that kid to commit that was on campus.
Yeah. Hopefully we get him. So we'll see what happens.
All right. If he's listening, I saw you over at War Memorial. You make sure you commit to A&T. All right, Elliott, I appreciate it.
Yeah. Have a good one.